Welcome back to WGN-TV Political Report.
There's a lot going on in the city of Chicago, of course, this week and everywhere. So joining us to talk about this is 48th Ward Alderman Harry Osterman. He's joining us via Zoom. Alderman, thanks for your time. And before we get into everything we had kind of planned to talk about, we know that at the end of the week, of course, we found out about the ComEd situation and the mention of Speaker Madigan and the investigation going on there. From your perspective as an alderman, what light or concerns does this give you about future deals between the city and ComEd, if any?
I think it's significant that they paid $200 million, acknowledge their wrongdoing. I think, as the U.S. Attorney said, it's bad and it's wrong and indefensible. And I think the corruption also goes at consumers who are paying for their electricity. So I think that there's probably going to be more indictments to come. And I think this is a situation that we have to get cleaned up to make sure that there isn't corruption there. And it's not trickling down to the people that are paying their electrical bills every month.
And quickly, Alderman, should Speaker Madigan resign?
I think that, let's see, I've not read all the information. I think that if the allegations are true, that's something that he should.
All right, let's move on. The CPS framework for reopening calls for a mix of in-person and remote learning. Parents are really bearing the brunt of this thing, getting their kids ready to do the remote learning in addition to the work they often have to do from home. So what is the message to parents about this mix of them continuing to have to do some remote learning?
So I think the important thing to understand is that we're still collecting information. And I think that CPS, the mayor, Dr. Arwady, are trying to make the best decision that's going to protect the students first and foremost, but teachers and everybody in the building while providing a rigorous education. And I think that we're trying to do the best that we can towards that. So over the next 2 weeks, CPS has laid out a framework, and what they're going to do is get feedback from parents, teachers, stakeholders to really talk about the practicalities of it and how this can work. And like COVID, since the beginning of it across the country, a lot of it's out of our control. And I think that the choices made by the governor, by the mayor, have really helped put Illinois in a good place today with reduced cases. But it's on all of us to make sure that we're vigilant in wearing masks and doing all the little things that we need to do to make sure that we are safe, but to make sure our schools are safe and kids can learn.
Alderman, you're the chair of the Housing Committee. You're very busy, of course, dealing with tenants who can't afford rent and need breaks. You're dealing with the Fair Notice Ordinance and changes there. But you have landlords who say, look, I've got mortgages to pay too. And I know you're dealing with the Just Cause Eviction Ordinance. Give us an update on where things stand as we're in this difficult time.
So it's really important to understand that the economic impact that has been felt by COVID, by the closing businesses, by people being out of work, that has a huge impact on people's ability to stay within their homes safely. And the federal government has provided some relief with CARES Act funds and unemployment insurance, but there's a huge concern that we are going to have a major eviction wave where people have been out of work and not able to pay rent. Illinois has provided, with their passage of the budget, $400 million of rental and mortgage assistance. The city of Chicago used $20 million. So we want to make sure that people are not forced out on the street in the middle of a pandemic with their families. So we've passed an ordinance that's going to basically lengthen the time that a landlord would tell a tenant when their rent would be increased, as well as if they are not going to be renewed for a lease again. So I think, this is a significant ordinance, and we're looking holistically at issues across the city. We need to make sure there's major investment in safe and affordable housing on the south and west sides as we look to bolster those communities. But we think that this is a really important ordinance to protect tenants at a very critical time when it comes to people being able to stay in their homes safely.
The mayor is projecting a $700 million budget deficit. What is your understanding of the options on the table, and can you support a property tax hike or layoffs in city government?
So I think property tax hikes right now are off the table. I think that the mayor and her budget team and finance team have done a really good job of making sure that financially we are on solid ground, even though we've been in a pandemic. So I think that we're looking at, for this year, a $700 million gap Next year's budget is going to be very, very difficult, and quite frankly, I think everything's going to be on the table. I think the hope is that with the summer and the fall, if we're able to manage COVID and keep businesses open here, that some of the sales revenue is going to come in to help bolster our economy. But I think the reality is that all of us, from a financial standpoint and a health standpoint, are in this for the next year until we have a vaccine and kind of get back to the way things were. But I think it's going to be a very challenging couple years.
You know, Alderman, restaurants fighting their way back to try and survive, but all over the city, in your ward, you have live entertainment venues, theaters, like you've got the Black Ensemble Theater and 14 other theaters. The beaches are closed. Are there going to be more casualties from this pandemic going forward in certain industries like entertainment?
I think that there are going to be casualties. I think one of the really inspiring things is to see businesses innovate. And whether it's drive-through with restaurants or businesses that are doing deliveries, I think entertainment's the same thing. I was outside of the Raven Theater yesterday for an office hours with my staff, talking to neighbors. And the Raven Theater is going to do outdoor performances socially distanced. So I think that the arts community has been very looking at this and focused on it. And I think they're trying to find ways to kind of get through this cycle to then really grow. But I think there's been a lot of innovation. We want to make sure the arts and the culture, whether it's live music or theater, it's very important in our community and city that they're here when the economy, I think, begins to open up in earnest.
All right, Alderman Harry Osterman of the 48th Ward. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take one more break. We're coming right back.